All right, I got my handy timer. I'm starting it for 30 minutes so I do not go over. Oh, wait, that's 3 minutes. 30 minutes. Let's start it over. 30 minutes. Okay. Because I ain't trying to be on here all night. So, this is for my own accountability. Janae Nicole here. Today is my birthday, April 24th. And I picked this day specifically because it is my birthday and I will remember this day in 90 days from now will be July 23rd. And that will be the end of this challenge. So, my 90 days, the goal is to create a content studio. That's what I want to do. I want to open a content creator studio in Fort Lauderdale area. I'm realistic enough to know that I'm not going to get it. Well, I won't say that. Lord, I take those words back. I'm realistic to know that having never started an actual legal business, 90 days is optimistic to say the least. But at least in 90 days, I want to be in a position to start pre launch activities. So I feel like I can get that done in the next 90 days if I take massive action every single day. Hence why we're here on this live stream. So I have a couple of little notes here just to keep me on task because I can go off on a tangent. So a little backstory. I turned 48 today, but I have been failing forward, as I would like to say, in business endeavors since around 2001. So it's been in total about 23 years of me failing forward in these different business endeavors. A year, it's gone from 2001 trucking to massage therapy to hair to, oh God, what else? I dabbled in MLM and I started a blog in 2010. So it's been a little bit of everything. The podcast came out in 2015 before a lot of people even knew what a podcast was. So I would like to say I'm a visionary. I am definitely a visionary. I know I am that of myself. What I am not is someone that follows through after. I don't want to say I get bored with things, but right when it seems like I get on the cusp of something, I kind of just let it go. But this time, I am tasking myself with over these next 90 days to really build a business that has um, impact on my local community. Like, it's not just for me. All of the other businesses that I feel like I started, other than the podcast, even that was kind of for me to a certain degree. But I feel like all of the other ones were more geared toward me, centered around just things that I wanted to do. For instance, the blog was Diary of a Fat Christian. It was just, I understood what the power of having a blog and a website early. Like I said, that was 2010. So I understood the power of what that could be over the years if I would have stuck with it. But at the end of the day, the reason that I was doing it was to build a brand eventually. It really wasn't to help people get fit or anything like that. So, for this content creation studio that I'm endeavoring to do, the number one reason that I'm doing it is I never really wanted to have a brick and mortar business. Like, I've consistently said I want to have a content based business. And I still do. Like, this here is me creating content. So I'm going to win on the back end, but on the front end, I want to build a business for creators that are like me, that I just remember the hustle and the grind of getting started with creating a podcast all those years ago and not having the equipment or not having the space to do it in, or even if I once I did have those things, having a space that it was just easy to just go in and knock out content and get it done and not have to go in and do all of these extra steps. So yeah, that's and also make it affordable. So nowadays, when you look up, at least in my local area, there are no really there are no content studios for the smaller creators. Like if you're going in a studio, you're pretty much going for like the high end production value. Like you going in and they already have the studio, the mics and everything. Like they have it kitted out. So the hourly rate is like over $100 an hour. Like what small creator can afford that? Like it's ridiculous. Granted, that's good for if you already have a business and you need to create content for your business. That's perfect. I'm not knocking you. Like I may have a room like that as well, but the overall thing that I envision for this content studio would be for local creators that are on a smaller budget and you know they're trying to do something but they just need a little help, a little resources and the space to do it in. So that's why I want to create the content studio. um a little bit of my journey up to this point so that when I look back at this in the 90 days, I plan to every week though recap the week of what I got done in the week. So I'll try my best every week to get a video out with the recap. But yeah, so like I said, and first of all, let me just backtrack. Before I started this live stream, I'm doing it on StreamYard. This probably has the StreamYard logo on here somewhere. But this is my first time actually. I tested it out earlier today. Fine, no problem. Did the test, tested the audio. Why? Right before I started this live, I wrote like a really nice intro. Like I wrote a good description in it, basically giving you all of these details. Great title, great details explaining exactly the reason behind this. You know, I poured my heart out in them details. Why? I go to hit live. I went to go live and I don't know, I clicked something else and I was like, oh, did I go live? And I hadn't. So I was like, oh, okay, maybe I need to go back. And I clicked on something else. Why? It erased everything that I wrote. Everything was gone. So that's why the description real scanty because I'm like, listen, some of us got to get up and go to work tomorrow. This girl. So we're going to let it do what it do. And I have procrastinated long enough today on just sitting down and doing this live. So I was refusing to fail on my first day of going live. So let me go ahead and get into a little bit of my notes. So like I said, I feel like I've been failing forward for 23 years. So it started in around 2000, 2001. I'm not going to go deep into these details, but I'll just give you a quick overview so that we can remember where it all started. Like I had to go back in my phone, look at old pictures. I had to pull up. I went and dug up the old blog to get some of these dates. So I'm not going to go in details, but I'll just give a quick, brief overview. So in 2000, around 2000, 2000, and yeah, around 2000, I was working. So first of all, I graduated in 94, you know, graduated in 1994, immediately went into working in plastic factories for about the next 8 years. Before graduating, though, I went to a co-op high school where I was supposed to graduate, and the plan was for me to be a hairstylist. However, by my senior year, I knew before graduation that I was not intending to become a hairstylist. Like I knew in my head, I already had decided I'm not doing it. I'm not interested in standing on my feet all day, doing hair, all of the last minute phone calls. Can I get a hookup? Oh, I got my hair done. I did their hair yesterday. Oh, I messed this side up. Girl, can you fix it? Family and friends wearing you out. I was over it by the time senior year came. So that started me down. I immediately after high school got a job in a plastic factory, and that I lived that life for about 8 years. So around 2000, I was working in a factory in Dayton, Ohio. And I remember being on the line, and we had a guy on our line. I can't remember his name to this day, but we called him Grandpa. And I remember we were making baby car seats, and we was slamming them seats, boom, boom, one after the other, pop, pop, boom, boom, boom. And I remember at one moment we had been working, we had almost done a full shift and it was late. And I remember just kind of looking down at him. He was the last guy on our line. And I remember just watching him, and he was working just as hard as the rest of us. And at that time, I was in my early 20s. I imagined that he just looked so much older. I just thought that he was probably close to 60s. And I'm thinking to myself, I don't want to be this guy at the end of it all. Like, I don't want to be working that hard at the end of it all. And I knew then that I was like, yeah, this is not the life for me. I'm not going to stay here. And I probably did it for, I want to say maybe another, I don't even think it was a full year before. It definitely wasn't a full year after that moment. Like, I knew right then that that was it for me. Like, I'm not going to do this. But kind of find out he was nowhere near as old as I thought he was, because when he died, I believe he was maybe in his 50s. And I was like, oh my God, we calling him grandpa? I thought he was close to 70, 60 or 70. But that just goes to show the toll of that kind of work, and just like having a hard life like that. Like, it ages you. Granted, he was a white guy. So, that melanin be protecting us to a certain extent. But yeah, so that was kind of the impetus of knowing that I knew that I didn't want that kind of life, like working hard on a, factory floor until I basically passed out of death or whatever. So that's where I kind of got the idea that I knew that wasn't going to be it. So at that point, I was like, what can I do to get out of this? Like, what's next? Because I knew I didn't want to go to college. Um, and if I did, I didn't want to go and be like, something super heavy that I was going to have to learn, because I was a good student. I just knew that college was just not for me. I knew that early on. And I told my mother as such, and I know I disappointed her. I'm sorry, mama. Excuse me. So I was like, I want to say God. I don't want to say it was luck. It had to be God, because right at the time that I was having this like crisis of what's next, we we supplied a lot of parts for General Motors. That was like our major supplier for our plastic factory, that we supplied General Motors a lot of their parts. And they shut down for a couple of weeks. So that meant, we were shut down for a couple of weeks without pay. So my cousin was driving trucks at the time, and he was like, look, y'all ain't working. You might as well come ride with me for a couple of weeks, and just hang out with your big cuz. And I was like, all right, ain't got nothing else to do. And I literally rode with him a couple of weeks, and I was like, this all you do? And I absolutely fell in love with it. I fell in love with the open road, the freedom of it. Um, yeah, I was like, I'm going to school. Before we even got back to Dayton, I knew that I was going to school to become a truck driver. I want to say from me getting off of his truck and going back to work, it probably was less than 30 days before I was enrolled in school to become a truck driver. I immediately made that decision and went for it. So, needless to say, I said I wasn't gonna go deep in it. I became a truck driver. I did that for about 4 years, a little bit. I ended up, yeah, so I did that for about 4 years, a little over 4 years. And then I decided, this trucking, while I loved it at the time, it was like, that's a hard life to do, and we were doing it hardcore. Like we would stay out for 2 months at a time, come home for 2 weeks, hit it again. Like we were hardcore, like out there. So that, why I love that experience, and I was young, so I'm still late mid to late 20s, early 30s. Yeah, I don't even think I was 30 yet. Yes, I was still young, so I could jug and move a certain kind of way at that age. But it takes a toll on your body too. Sitting long hours. I gained hella weight. I think I gained like 25 pounds working on the truck. Just sitting, eating terrible every day. You get tired of that. Every day you eating, garbage every day. And you sitting for long hours, extended amounts of time, sleeping horrible. So my physical body took a beating being on the road, while my mental, I was like free to imagine, okay, what's next? So then I was like, I know I want to work for myself. I want to have a job that I can have options. Like I already knew whatever I'm doing next, I want to be able to, if I need to work for somebody, I can, but I also had a flexibility to work for myself. Here go God again. I think it's God. I'm going to say God because that's my belief. You believe what you want to believe. I was home. We were home in Ohio for my birthday. My sister and I went and got massages. My sister treated me to a massage. I think her husband might have got us massages. Either way, we went and they, treated me to a massage. And I fell in love with it. That was my first time ever having a massage. And I was like, that's it. That's what's next. I'm becoming a massage therapist. It's perfect. I could go anywhere. I could work any kind of job. I could be my own boss. I could work for somebody and still have private clients. Like it was the perfect answer. It was serene. It wasn't hard on your body. Like it fit all of the boxes. So I started doing research. That's how I ended up in South Florida. So that was the next iteration of, okay, I'm gonna become a massage therapist. I'm gonna become a massage therapist. Did that. And since 2000, I don't have it here, but after I became a massage therapist, right out of school, I worked for myself. And that was hard. Like that was my first time becoming an actual, technically a business owner, because though I worked in a nail salon. So it was like a commission split. So it was like 60-40 because it was their place. I was brand new out of school. I was the only therapist there. It was in a huge mall, the Sawgrass Mills Mall down here. So that's like a tourist mall down here. It was right down the street from my house. So it was a good opportunity being able to come out of school, have some level of clientele coming to me from the nail salon, and being able to drum up my own business. And it was a slog. Like it was like, okay, I got business cards at that time. I don't think I had a website yet. I don't think I had a website at that point, but I maybe did. Yes, I did. I had my first website was Kingdom Massage. I did create my own website. I had my business cards, and everything. And that was a slog. And it was more downtime than not. So I had to supplement my income, even though I was living with a family member at the time. So that's how I ended up back full circle. Remember, I went to school for hair, but I knew I wasn't going to do hair. I ended up becoming a hairstylist assistant to a really good stylist down here in South Florida. And that's how I was able to kind of navigate and supplement my income. I was able to finally move out on my own because I was making really good money with the hairstylist, and I was getting a little bit of money from massage. And then eventually, you know how that works. Okay, you know where you getting your bread buttered at. He made me an offer and was like, listen, you do really good work. I would like to offer you a full-time position. And I really was making peanuts running back and forth. If they would call me and say, oh, you got a client, I'm running to the mall to do a client, then come back to the shop. So I was like, okay, all right, I took the position. So once I became his assistant, though, it became more of, because I could still do my clients on the side, but hairstyling, it's the weekend. Most people getting their hair done on the weekend. Oop, get out of there. I didn't mean to put that on there. So most people getting their hair done on the weekend. And I was like, I couldn't really keep my clients because most people want a massage on the weekend. So it became a thing where my side hustle doing hair became my full-time job. And I kind of let massage go as the years went on. Even the faithful few clients that I did have, they kind of petered off too. So that became my full-time income. And now I'm just an employee. Well, actually, I wasn't even I was an employee. I was a 1099 contractor. So, you know, then the next iteration was, okay, 2008 hit, economy crashed. What's the first thing people, like, I got to give it to, my boss. He held me down for the longest. Matter of fact, it wasn't until about 2010 that we actually, like, he was like, listen, business ain't what it used to be. I don't know. And I was like, it's fine. I'll just go ahead and go do my own thing. I kind of been wanting to get back into massage anyway. So now this is where it went funky. I knew that I was leaving his employ and I would not have other means of income. And now I'm on my own. I got real bills. And I was just so lackadaisical about, like, getting ready to become a business owner in my own right. Like, I was like, I'm gonna get you some business cards, I just need you to give me the information. And I was like, okay. And she knew that I wasn't ready. And I was like, it'll be fine, I have time. I did not have time. Within, I think, 60 days, I was about bankrupt. And I was living off McDonald's dollar menu, not knowing how I was going to pay rent or pay this and pay that. My family had no idea I was going through all of that. And God, he just made a way for me to navigate, and another opportunity came. As I was planning to just say, forget it. I'm going back on the road. I got to get some money. God opened the door and I got a job with benefits and pension, like, right as I was like, I need cash today. And that was it. I got that opportunity. I never really even kind of, oh, I'm lying. I got on at Massage Envy and I started working for them. So that helped. But then I also got that other opportunity. So those two opportunities together, and your girl was back on top. Bills paid, all is well. But I vowed to myself from that experience that I would never again be dependent on one income. Like, I would never let myself get into a situation where I had no other alternative. Like, I had got to the point where I think I even had called my dad and was like, hey, can you send me some money? And we don't even vibe like that. For me to call him was like my darkest hour, because I didn't want my regular family, I didn't want my mom and them to know that I was literally starving in these streets. It hadn't got so bad that I called my mama, but I called my dad, and it was just like, once again, you are useless. Sorry, Dad, if you watching, but yeah, it was yet another letdown in a long stream of letdowns over my life. But anywho, so that's another business fail, but that taught me a valuable lesson in being prepared, always being prepared, and never, having all your eggs in one basket. So from that day to this, I have always maintained a private clientele. Yes, the cushy job, I don't want to say it's cushy, it's a good job, but I have a decent lifestyle because I have a steady income. But I have got real lax with when I'm going to do private clients and when I'm like, I don't feel like it, I ain't doing it. So now I'm like, okay, I got to get serious. So now we're probably pretty much to here. You know, all of those years I was doing doing blogging. I had maintained, I had started a website called JanaeNicole.com in around 2014. And then in 2015, I launched a podcast called the Job Optional Podcast because I've always, um, had the idea of now having had that experience of famine and truth for me, true famine, which I had never had a day hungry in my life before that. That was like a wake up call to me. And I'm like, I always want to have my job, but I want to have an option that if something should so happen and I need to go, I got another option. So that was why I named it Job Optional. Like, I love my job, but you never know. Like, you just don't know what can happen. And, you know, I just feel like you got to have a second option. So that was my whole backstory of how we got here. And so I just been creating content really since about 2014. It started 2010. I started my first blog, which was so funny. I went back and saw it was called Diary of a Fat Christian. It's still live on Blogger. If you want to look it up, feel free. But I'm like, I cannot believe that that's still up there all these years later. And I even said it in that blog, like, oh, for my future self, when I look back at this, that was just so wild to me. Anyway, so that's there. That's when I started in the content. Like, I understood the power of content and I tapped in. I didn't tap in fully, but I got it. I understood the concept and I knew the power of it. So that's when I started. And then in 2014 is around the time I started the personal brand, JanaeNicole.com. And then the podcast Job Optional started in 2015. And then I flaked in 2017. I did. But yeah, we got like 2 minutes left. So I've given my whole backstory on how we got here, why I'm starting to do this every day. Now, tomorrow, from moving forward from today, I have a whole spreadsheet for each day, each week, what I need to get accomplished. Well, I broke it up into 3 segments. I broke it up into kind of like building a house. So the first month is the foundation, building the foundation, which is just like when you build in a house, getting the foundation laid. So for me with the business, that will be getting all my legals, getting my brand, getting my banking set up, doing my visioning, creating a mission statement. So every single day I'm going to be sharing each step. And then the second month I did build. So building out all of the property. So building out my website, building out what the creator space, like looking for properties, what does that look like in actuality? Like, what is the space going to be? I've already kind of started looking at places and seeing what the money part looks like, but I'm nowhere near ready for that. And then my final third month would be finish work. Just like when you build in a house, the finish work is the last thing they do. They come in, they put in the floors, put in all the fixtures, put in the lights and the ceiling fans and all of that, and paint everything. So that would be doing the blog and getting the podcast set up, and all the things connected to each other so that it creates a content ecosystem for the business that is going to be the content studio for Lauderdale. I don't know what the name is going to be yet, but that is the idea. So, if you see this out here on these internets and you want to follow along, feel free. But this is mostly just a capsule for myself to go back and look at this in the future to see where we came from, and most importantly, keep me accountable every day that I'm hopping on here to get this work in. We got 15 seconds, so I am going to sign off there. And I will see you tomorrow, Janae Nicole.